Well, ladies, this is kind of an exciting night. This is the first night we're doing this. We have foundational courses, which we're going to talk about in a minute, some foundational videos that Misty already did for us. But tonight, it's our first night. It's our kind of an initial beginners foundational discipleship. And I think tonight, what I just want to hear from all of you is, what is it that you're looking for? What are some of the areas? I'm going to share with you some, and I'm Misty, we want, and the same, we want to share kind of when we first kind of came into this movement, where were the areas that we felt there were some holes, right, Misty? Like, what were some holes that we felt we weren't really discipled in? And I know Valerie and Crystal are going to be doing a call in a couple weeks, and once a month they'll do this call, and it's about the hard questions. So we might send you to them if you're like, yeah, I already know how to do all that. This isn't the spot we're going to be doing all the hard questions. Not that we can't answer some things, but truly, let's put this on Valerie. Hard question asked Valerie. So Valerie Moody and Crystal are going to do that. I think next week is a deeper one. I'm kind of debating on if that's even going to be a thing. Like, do we even need that? I don't think. But I put 3 nights just in case, and we'll see what happens this month and what rises to the top. So what I'd love to hear before we Misty, Jeff, y'all know Misty. Misty's our CFO. Super fun.
Yeah, that fun position in the mid-bar with all those numbers and all that
This
stuff.
is your favorite book.
This was
right?
my birth portion, actually. This week. Mid-bar, yeah.
Of course it is, because it's all about identity, right? It's all about lifting your head and yeah, awesome.
Yes.
So tell me, like, what are some things that coming into this that you felt like were holes in your discipleship?
Probably the biggest thing for me initially were words.
Okay.
What is this word? What does that mean? Are you speaking English to me? What exactly are you saying?
Okay.
So different things. I mean, even getting comfortable with saying Shabbat Shalom was a deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, I got you. Does anyone else? You guys, this is going to be like round table. So you could unmute yourself at any time and jump in. Okay. This is not us teaching. This is going to be a more round table. So once y'all consider, actually, I'm going to change my view here to a gallery. So we're all on the same, I can see you this way better. Okay. Yeah. Feel free to, who else? Is there something else? I'm going to say while someone unmutes and interrupts or jumps in, that for me, it was the same. Randy and I just had this conversation. I didn't understand the difference between, no one told me until just a few years ago, or I heard it on a podcast and I was like, oh, good. I'm glad I never asked that because I was too embarrassed. I didn't understand the difference between the Talmud, the Tanakh, and the Torah. Like, I knew the Torah was the first 5 books, and I knew that like one of them meant like the whole thing, but I didn't know that. Is there anybody else who had that? Don't be embarrassed, because I'll be embarrassed for everybody. I was too embarrassed to say it.
One of the foundations calls that I did was had those words, because those were some of the ones I had trouble with too. What does that mean? What are you trying to tell me?
I know. I didn't know that Tanakh was actually like a acrostic sort of for the whole
thing.
Tish said she had to stop and look up so many things, and she still does. Good. What were some of the things, Tish? Can you unmute? Do you mind telling us what are some of the things that you are that you had to look up? Because it might be something someone else is too hasn't looked up yet and they don't know. What is something recently you maybe looked up?
So recently I looked up Shema. I'm constantly looking up different pronunciations and just trying to figure out, what simple, even Hebrew, like what is a dalet, or, and I just try and do little baby steps. And then I feel like the Father kind of keeps me in that for a little while longer until all of a sudden it clicks, and then I can move to the next stepping stone.
Good. Do you want to share what you learned as far as Shema, what it meant? Do you remember?
Well, I'm still learning.
Okay.
So, I think this is correct. Looking at some different videos, it's a prayer time. and it covers almost like a version of the Lord's Prayer, and saying that when we rise in the morning, and then at a certain time. And I think even um, Halisa just mentioned that in a podcast I was listening to this week as well. So the funny
that's
thing
jumping
is,
to the deep end right there.
yeah, well, and I just kind of put a whole bunch of stuff in on my plate every day, and try and keep the channels going, and opening, and trying to figure out, okay, and if the Lord puts a dam up on and stops the water flowing into me, for that learning moment, then I kind of sit there for a little bit and try and understand it. But when I hear all these different words, it's intriguing to me, and I have to stop, and then I have to find a teacher that I trust. And so, I've come across a few that are like, whoa, I don't know if I should be listening to this. So just sorting through it, and then just adding that prayer every morning. That's my thing for the last 2 weeks, is adding that when I rise in the morning, and just giving thanks, and kind of just myself with my Bible, and listening to an audio, sitting in my rocking chair in my room, as the sun's coming up, and the sun comes up in the front of the house, which is where my room is. And I'm just finding such peace in that to start my day off immediately that direction before I do anything else, besides use the bathroom and grab a cup of coffee, and then I just sit. So that's where I'm at this week on learning that.
That's fantastic. For those of you who don't know the Shema, it's in Deuteronomy 6. And it's Hero Israel, right? The Lord, our God, the Lord is one. It's the Shema is part of in the little scroll that is on your mezuzah on your door. That might be some of the things that someone maybe has not heard of before. You see the little things on people's door. It's called a mezuzah. And they're like, why do you do that? Well, there's a little scroll that has the word, because the word tells us to write the word down, to talk about the word as we're coming and we're going, to write it down on our doorposts, on our foreheads, on our hands, and then write it on our doorposts. So having that mezuzah on your door is having that word on your doorpost. I have got a beautiful new one. I posted pictures. Any adding on that for the Shema, Misty?
No, well, yes. I said no, and then I'm like, yes.
Yes.
I have a reminder on my phone for 9:00 and 3:00 to pray the Shema. And for me, what it does for me is it's like calling in the house of Israel, calling in those lost sheep when I pray that Shema, that they would all hear, that they would all know, that we would all be one, so that we are ushering in his kingdom. So
that's good. It stops your day, and because especially when you kind of get on a track of whatever you're doing, whether you're working outside the home or in the home, having that interruption where you're like, okay, I'm going to start my morning off. And what I'm doing is I'm going to start my day. And this is ritualistic, y'all. But we are told that we're supposed to, do this all the time. But this is, again, we will reinforce, if you hear people talking about this, and you'll hear them saying, oh, it's in the Amidah prayers. It's a book of prayers. And one of the prayers for the day is the Shema. And the Shema is that Hero Israel prayer out of Deuteronomy 6. And it's just acknowledging that he's God. He's in control of everything. He is one. He is one with me. And Yeshua said that you be one the way that my Father and I are one. And we want to be one with all of them, right? We want to be one with them and with one another. And I think that's the good thing for us to remember. I love that you said, Tish, about pronunciations. And I want to encourage all of you. This is a good thing. It kind of goes along with something that Danielle said, that she was having a hard time with, one of the things she struggled with was, how does the Hebrew language work, and how do I study it, and about root words? Great. That was great. This kind of ties only into the Hebrew language, is that the Hebrew language is phonetic, which means I'm teaching my 6-year-old how to read. So it's hooked on phonics, and we do like b-at, bat. We're doing the k-at, cat. The difference is that you write it phonetically. You'll see people say Hanukkah, and it'll be with a CH, or it might be with just an H. And which one is right? Yes.
Both. Yes.
They're both right. You'll see if you just phonetically write something out and you're like, I probably spelled that all wrong. You probably know, unless you wrote it in Hebrew wrong. But if you wrote it in English and you wrote it phonetically of how it sounds to you, it's right. As long as you can find it using that spelling, it's great. And you may find other people, there's a common way to do it, but right, Misty, just be encouraged that it's really, it's the sound, it's sounded out however you hear it. The only time I would say that if you're trying to look something up, you might want to kind of know the common way to spell it. But if it's just for you and you're studying, it doesn't matter because it's phonetic.
Right.
Does
That's
that help
right.
anybody? I see you bouncing your head. So good to see you. I I love you so much. Oh my gosh. You should be, why aren't you teaching this class? This is what you need to be doing. Yeah. Good, good, good.
So one of the things that I wrestled with was because as a musical person, I really wanted to be able to sing the prayers, but then you go on YouTube and it's like there's multiple ways to do all the prayers, and then all of a sudden you're like, what? There's like a bajillion prayers and a bajillion blessings and a bajillion, like, I mean, Judaism is very liturgical, which I love. But yeah, like when you're trying to get in a gathering and you're trying to sing a blessing over the wine, like, well, how is it supposed to sound, kind of thing,
Right.
musical wise.
I've gone to different people's homes, and lately in the homes I've been, I think it's because they've all been discipled by Charles and Miriam Stallsworth. Everyone's doing it the same. So it's like, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, so you hear that and you start getting used to it. And the first few times we went, Randy and I didn't know it. And like, here we are, been doing this a while. And we were like, I don't know it in Hebrew. We say it every Friday, but we don't do it in Hebrew. We don't even, we were like, showing up. And mostly I did that because my husband wasn't like walking this out. He was just like pacifying me. And so I didn't want to put it all on him by throwing out the Hebrew there at the same time. So, but this last time when we were there and we were at the congregation and they were doing the songs at the Havdalah, which is when you close out Shabbat, it's a special service. It's called Havdalah. They were doing songs and he was singing all the songs. So I thought it was kind of funny to do that. So there's a lot of little stuff we can go through. I just more wanting to find out, where are you all at, so that we make sure we cover, what are some of the things that you would like us to, I'm writing notes as we're talking, because that's what today's more about, is just finding out some of the things you want us to really go over. Nicole, what are some of the things that you're wanting that you're like, no one's really, I need to be in this little area. I'd love this to be taught this a little better.
Well, I typically go to Gail with all of my questions.
Right. You have great resources.
But I've recently been leading a book study, or what's it called? Book club over Jen Rosner's book with a bunch of Christian friends. And I was amazed at how much I don't know. They ask some really good questions. I mean, they love the book, but they ask really good questions. And, I'm explaining things. But one is like, what is the purpose of, like, what is the difference between clean and unclean, and what is the difference between ritual cleanliness and what is the difference between, like, because coming out of a Christian world, we don't even deal with that, right? But that's an important thing to discuss. And what is the difference? Because obviously the laws don't give us salvation. But why are they, like, even some of the why are they impactful? I mean, the Rooted Cafe does that a lot already. But what about the minor points of the law?
And that's what we're doing here, is let's go into some of those. And I'm writing these all down because we will just hit on them every week. And that's a great one, the clean versus unclean, and what the difference is in those. And so I wrote it down. That's a really good one. And why is that important? Because when you go into the New Testament, you're going to be seeing things like, this is not clean, and this is to wash your hands before this because you don't want to make this unclean. And if you really understand what the clean and unclean, we'll use English right now. If we understand that concept and we have a good grasp on it, when you're reading about it in the New Testament, you're going to see it different, because you're not going to be seeing it as even when you see the dream about the animals, you're going to see all that stuff differently, because you're going to be like, oh, or when they talk about something not being fit, it's because they were so caught, when you say they were so caught up in, oh, I have to wash my hands, I have to do this. They were so caught up in this ritual as opposed to their hearts. So I think that would be a really good point to go over.
There's
Anyone
even a
else?
difference between what the word is for clean in the word and kosher. Those
Correct.
are different words too.
There you go. There you go. That's a really good too. Let's add in that, because what's kosher and biblically clean, right? Two different things.
Two different things.
So if you hear anytime, I will often, if someone says, oh, that's just not kosher, and I'm like, but or biblically clean, like, which is it? Because it's a big difference. And I would stand or sit to say, all of us on here work to eat biblically clean, but not kosher. Like, kosher requires separate dishes in your kitchen. I mean, it requires, I just put cheese that was touching my chicken, and that would not happen. And don't tell me I can't have some feta next to that chicken that I just like did on the air fryer. But there's feta, everything's better with feta.
That's right.
So I don't eat kosher. But we don't understand that, because most of us have not grown up in the home of a Jewish family. So here's the thing, y'all. If you were to decide you were going to convert to Judaism, most of the time, if you're going to go fully Orthodox Jew, you would go and live with a family for a while, because you would go through especially a full Torah cycle, 4 feast cycle, and you would live with a family so that you would get to see every week how the rhythm of the Torah, the rhythm of the family, the rhythm of the festivals, and you would get to see all that, and you would understand what was happening. We don't do that, right? So we don't understand what these things are. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this. Is so I know Crystal and I were talking about this is having these pop up, is because this is the living in the rhythm. Like, can we go through a rhythm? Like, okay, Shavuot is coming up. And I did want to touch on that before we go today. And just a couple things about Shavuot, because I feel like that's part of this in super beginner discipleship. Now, if you're on here and you've been doing this a long time, this might be not the place for you. And it's okay for you to be like, yeah, this is way too beginner for me. Or maybe you're the person who needs to be here to help disciple, because you can say, you know what, I went through this and this really helped me understand this better, and you would be able. So I don't want you to necessarily run. If you have the time to hang out with us, then do that. Anybody else have something that they struggle with that they would like us to make sure we cover? Nice to see you, Carol, sort of. Your name anyway. Anyone else? I did write down about how to study, even though we do have that class. What I would like to do is have us do it together, and everybody be able to stop, close their screen out, like we'll all stay on together, and everybody look up we'll pick a word, we'll pick up a verse, and everybody looks the verse up. How to study. Okay, that's a good one, Jennifer. Yeah, I wrote that down. How we're going to study. I think we might spend a little bit of time on that. Yeah. How to study, and what's the difference? And like Danielle said, what is the difference between, you'll hear people saying, well, that's a Hebrew way of studying, or a Greek, oh, that's a Greek mindset versus a Hebrew mindset. Valerie Moody wrote a really great book, My Big Fat Greek Mindset. It's a really good one for that area if you are adding to your collection, which, by the way, my collection is getting bigger and bigger. I'm going to share with you guys. It was fun because before we left, Miriam said, do you want any of Charles's books?
Yes.
We have to go get a U-Haul. I'll be right back. Like, because our car is packed. Like, what? So I have this like stack of books as I'm leaving, and Randy had a bunch he wanted. He goes, well, I didn't want to ask for any because you'd already like cleaned up. I was like, you need to ask. Go get what you want. So because she said the boys aren't readers, my kids aren't readers, they're not going to appreciate it, and I know you're going to take it and you're going to teach from what you learn, and that's what Charles would have wanted. And a lot of these books he handed off to you anyway. So most of the books I got were a lot on Hebrew prayer, because the other stuff I had, and I didn't want to well, I did want to, but I didn't take everything. So maybe we'll do it in small pieces. So that was fun. I have a lot on prayer, and I'm excited because I want to teach what I'm going to be learning on that, because that's an area for me. We talked about prayer. We talked about the Shema, the Amidah, like what part of that? I mean, I do as well. I know I like the liturgy. I didn't think I did, but I actually do like the systematic, how it's systematic. And I like someone tell me kind of what to do. And then what happens is I start into that liturgical process. I find myself then being able to pray better, as opposed to I have prayer ADD. So I start praying. And because of my own ADD, I'll be like, I've shared this with you guys before. Father, thank you for this day. Man, it was hot today. What if it's gonna be hot tomorrow? Oh, I forgot this.
It is
What do I
hot
have to
here today.
what do I have to do tomorrow? And I just go on and I'm like, I'm done. I just forgot I was praying. And then I fall asleep and then it's done. Done. But the liturgy helps me with that. Yes,
I
Annabelle?
love what Karen Holden said about wanting to learn some of the prayers. Like, what is the Amidah? What is the Shema? What is the
Okay,
morning prayer?
got it.
That would be awesome to go over. Like, what are some of the in the day? What are some of the prayers that people do? And then I loved what Danielle Taylor said about studying how important the cycles are and how chiasms work.
Mm,
And then
geez.
linear versus cyclical thinking, which is also really important. I agree. Great.
This is all gonna hurt your heads, y'all.
Yes, it
Someone
will.
told me the other day that I say y'all, it reduces my credibility. I'm like, well, anyway, maybe.
Hey, that way, people don't think too highly of you.
Thank you. That's what I'm thinking. I'm just keeping it real. Crystal, I like the reconciliation with a feeling of being lied to. I did write that down here. So let me share too. I have a tag that's bugging me. One of the biggest reasons, I had two reasons that I started the Rooted Cafe. One of the reasons was because, and I've shared this before, I said, oh, I wanted a safe place to ask dumb questions. But it wasn't really just that. It was for these things. It was like, I didn't know this. And I was hoping that if I didn't know it, and I had been on this journey for 20 years, there was a lot I didn't know because I might study the Torah. I could study, but I had very good study skills from before. I had learned the Hebrew way to study. So I just applied it to the skills I already had from being a pastor for so many years. However, so I could study the Torah, I could do all that, but I didn't understand like all the practical stuff. Like Missy was saying, even just it was only like maybe 8 years ago that I went to a fellowship for the first time in person, and someone said Shabbat Shalom to me. And that was really weird to me. Like, I was like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means, because I wasn't studying in Hebrew. I might go through and find the Hebrew. I might take the letters and look for the hieroglyphic of the letters, like you see us do a lot often. And if you're taking Brenda's class, great class for a beginner, learning the letters. And again, as you saturate yourself in some of this, it starts to kind of wear on you. So the more I've been around all of you, it's even saturated in me, and it's helped me grow and learn the more that I've gotten into. So it's been really helpful to me. So don't be embarrassed to ask questions, because it's truly my heart that's why we're here, because we can send you to some phenomenal teachers to teach you Torah, to do that. But this is really, I want you to have a place where you could actually walk some stuff out and you could ask those questions. And then, so back to Crystal saying about being angry, that was one of the reasons that was on my list of starting the Rooted Cafe, is because I was mad. I was mad at the beginning, and nobody ever talks about that. So I thought, I want to talk about the things no one talks about that I went through. I want to talk about the times when Christmas comes around and I'm really upset because I miss singing carols and I miss the memories with my family. And I didn't feel like I could say that out loud anywhere, because they would all look at me crazy and be like, well, and a lot of that was because I hadn't embraced the calendar, because I didn't know how. And I didn't want to fake something, or I didn't want to do it wrong. So I just didn't do it at all. So I didn't do that. So then what happened? I was doing nothing. So my family kind of was at a lull, and I was sad every year that I was missing something. Now it's better, but there's still sometimes I kind of miss Christmas. You walk into a store and there's songs, you start humming the songs and tapping your toes. Sometimes I miss a pulled pork sandwich. I mean, I want a place where you feel it's okay to say that. It doesn't, just want to talk, and we can talk about it, and nobody's on a high horse going, oh, can't believe you do that. But there's times when it happens where I'm like, man, I wish I had that. Just turkey bacon is not the same sometimes. Sometimes this sandwich, I just rather not have it. It's okay. But I find it, and then I want to talk to other women who've said, I've been there and I get what you're saying. So with that came along the fact that I was, one of those things on the list, Crystal, was I was mad. I felt like my whole life I was lied to. By God, why didn't you tell me this? I've served you my whole life. Why did you wait so long to tell this to me?
Yes.
And I was angry about that. Were you, Misty?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. What in the world? I have studied your word. I have wanted to know your will so much. And I have spent all this time in prayer and with you. And how did I not know this? Why did you not show me this? What is
Yeah.
happening?
And it took a minute, to not be
Yes.
so angry about that. So if you've gone through that process, or you're in that process because you're new and you've been awakened, he really showed me he was adding a dimension to what he had already showed me. This was adding a layer. This is like frosting and sprinkles and candles and swirly cute things on top of the cupcake. This is really it. The cupcake is still the same. He's just teaching me now just new stuff, and I'm not mad anymore. So if we're going through that season, you don't have to be mad. Go ahead, Danielle.
Hey, so to add on to the whole like being angry thing, I was raised in the church and got really, really angry before I was out of my parents' house and allowed to not go to church. So there are a lot of terms that most people in like a traditional church setting, like redemption and like these thought processes that they have, that I don't necessarily relate to because I was going to youth group and not sitting in like the adult Sunday school classes and being taught that way. So when people in my circle that are still in church and they ask me questions about what I do, I don't necessarily know where they're coming from because I was never in church as an adult. So maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody can talk to me about that personally, or I don't know if that's like an issue for other people or not, but that's just a suggestion.
I would love to hear that from anyone. Does anyone else have that issue? Are there some principles, which are the words that encompass those principles, like redemption, salvation? And you're like, well, what does that mean now? What does that look like now? And I know that you did a great job of that, Misty, and a lot of those in your foundation classes. We do have that. If anyone wants to go back in and you look into your cafe calls, Misty did a whole series on foundations. It's a great thing. Go through and watch those. And maybe we will take one of those and watch it and pause it and talk about it. What do you guys think about this? Play, pause, and we can go through one of those too. I think that we might do that. I was thinking about that today. Might be a good idea for us to take some of those. And also, Jen did her Torah, she did 6 videos on being brand new in Torah and what that was like. And so I would like to do that to encourage you. Sometimes it's funner. We all watch it together. It's like watching a movie. Everyone get your popcorn, as long as it's before 7, and eat your popcorn and let's talk about it. And then we can ask the questions because it might remind you of something that you forgot. Jennifer says that she just came out of that season and it's so isolating and you don't have community. Yeah, right. Yeah. And you feel like you should have it all together, especially if you've been in ministry and stuff before, right, Misty? If you feel like you've been in ministry and all these things, well, now what do you do? Because you were fully in ministry. Now, who are you?
Right. What do you identify as? What do you tell people? They're going to look at me like I've lost my mind.
What do you call yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Like who, what? Because you're doing that Jew thing now, and then you find out that there's multiple things people call themselves, like Messianic. They call themselves Hebrew roots. I mean, you're gonna hear lots of stuff, right? So
yes,
I'm curious on here if you guys put in the chat, or you can unmute and tell me, what is it if someone asks you, what are you? What do you say?
For me, it depends on who's asking. If
Yeah,
it's a Jew,
same.
I say I'm Christian. If it's a Messianic person, I say I'm Messianic. If it's a Christian, I say I'm Torah pursuant. It's really interesting. My sister.
You say the T word. You say the T word in front of that. Whew.
Yes.
She jumps right into the T word.
Well, I'm like, I mean, our family grew up with a lot of Jewish people. So
I appreciate that if you're with a Jew that you say I'm Christian, unless you are Jewish and you have converted, then you are a Messianic Jew. It is very respectful of you to say I'm Christian. That's very respectful.
Yeah, I don't want them to feel like I'm overtaking the authority of Judah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Yeah, that's wisdom.
And with Messianics, or with people who are Torah pursuant, I say I'm a Messianic. I don't say I'm a Messianic Gentile, because that's like, I don't want to cause more of a separation between Messianic Judaism and Messianic Gentile. I believe in Messiah, Messianic. And then with Christians, I say I pursue Torah.
Good. I've used things like I'm a whole Bible believer. You know,
I sometimes use that too. It was so
just
interesting.
depends.
Yeah, so interesting. My sister came over early March, and she was like, and you know, I've been walking this for what it's been, you know, 18 months since she came over, and she is the only other Christian in our family. And she and I are really, really tight. We talk about faith. We push each other. We talk about everything. And she came over and she said, "So I'm just curious. Are you a Christian? Like, do you think you're a Christian?" And I was like, "Of course I do." And she was like, "Okay, I wasn't really sure." And I was just like, "Oh." And that was the first time that my family has ever pushed against my Torah pursuance. And back to Danielle, I had a conversation recently, like yesterday, with a friend where, you know, we were discussing different doctrines, and I was telling her, you know, I was trying to explain to her, this is the churches that I've grown up in and what I've learned and what I've been taught. And we kept hitting heads because her definition of total depravity was different than my definition of total depravity, and her definition of evangelical was different than my definition of evangelical. And like, even I had a Lutheran friend who I had made some comment about the definition of evangelical, and she was like, "Well, we're an evangelical church." And so she ended up going to her Lutheran pastor, and the Lutheran pastor ended up saying, "Yeah, evangelical means like 3 different things." And she came back to me and she was like, "Yeah, we would not have realized that had you not made that comment about evangelical." But it's hard because there are so many Christian terminologies, and I'm so thankful and I'm so blessed because I grew up in the classical Christian school system, and we studied church history, we studied movements, I have been involved in a wide variety of church affiliations, and I know these things, and God has given me a brain that just lets me retain a lot of information. But it's really, really hard because walking into the Christian world is messy because there's just so many terminologies. I mean, same with Judaism.
You're going to find, ladies, that when you'll find people are offended, and maybe some of you in here feel that way. And I'm curious how many of you will identify yourself as a Christian, because they are offended. They'll say, like, they'll say they don't want to say they're a Christian. They're not a Christian. And it's okay if you don't, and it's okay if you do, because I'm sure you have good reasons. Carol, you're unmuted. What say you?
Well, I was just going to say, Misty had done a really good teaching back when she was doing the stuff that she was doing, and she called it the Way, which is what the original church was called, the Way. So recently, over spring break, my son-in-law's mother asked me, "What exactly are you? Are you Jewish?" And I said, "No, absolutely not." I said, "First of all, if I was Jewish, that would mean that I would be denying Yeshua or Jesus." And I said, "And I absolutely do not deny Yeshua." I said, "He is my savior." I said, "I am a believer in the whole Bible. I don't believe that we have lost any part of it. It's all there for us to learn and grow and teach." And I said, "I have changed the things that I have believed because of the things that I have read myself. I'm no longer swallowing what my pastor teaches hook, line, and sinker. I look it up, I search it, and I test it." And she just, it blew her away that I said, I test what my pastor says to me. Because growing up, that's all we did. We listened to whatever the pastor said and we went with it, never questioning it, never looking at it, never really opening our Bibles. And I said, today, I open my Bible and I look at everything that I'm told that supposedly is in the Bible. Is it really there or isn't it? What does it really say? I still haven't learned fully how to break it down and tear it apart, but I do the best that I can so that I can, when somebody asks me, I can answer them when it comes to a particular verse or a particular phrase. And I said, I follow the biblical holidays. I don't say the Jewish holidays. I say the biblical holidays instead of the holidays that I had traditionally followed.
You hear those are good. That's really good. And I like that I like that the biblical holidays. And you'll hear Deborah Flanagan. She has a good way of this, and I've grabbed this one, and she'll say, you know what? I'm a follower of, it depends on who I'm talking to, a follower of Jesus. And if he did it, I do it. If he didn't do it, I don't do it. And that's what I'm just trying to do. I'm literally trying to do what Jesus did. And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to learn the word from the Hebraic perspective. I want to know the Hebraic roots of the word so that I actually know what things really mean. And maybe we're lost in translation, but if he did it, I'm doing it. If he didn't do it, I don't want to do it. And so I'm a little crazy right now. That's what's happening. And people are, seem to swallow that one. Okay. Crystal, you're up.
Yeah, so I'm curious. Carol said that, that we don't question anything. So one of the things that got me was I was asked a question. If Yeshua is the word, what word was he? Because there was no New Testament, right? I'm like, wait, okay. If he was the word made flesh, then what word was he? So I was curious to know what was the question that was asked to the other people that got them triggered. That was one of the things that I was going to ask. But I also wanted to
That's a good question. What she's saying, what she means by that is, what was it? Did someone ask you a question or what was the question that triggered you to your conversion to the way? I use that too, Misty. I say I'm part of the way. Go ahead, Crystal. Sorry, part two.
No, that's okay. And there's actually a movie out there that I downloaded that I'm gonna take this from, and it's called The Way.
It's very good.
It's a very good one. And there was one part in there.
Let's watch that on here.
Yeah, there's one part in there that talks about the 5 phases of conversion. And the first thing that you do is you're a Christian. Christians are liars. That's it. Push it away. And then the next one, I must be Jewish. So let me find my heritage, right? How many of us have gone through
We all went through that, right? And
Yes.
we bought a menorah. We went and bought all the stuff, and
And
then
then
you
we
got
found
you
out-
got these prayer shawls and you don't really know how to wear them or what to do, but you got one, yeah.
And then you went through, well, Jews are wrong. The Jews are wrong, they don't believe in Messiah. So now what do we do? So then we feel displaced. We don't know our identity. We don't know our place. We don't know where we belong. But then we begin in the last phase. He called it the dance, which I love that part.
Oh, I know.
Yes. And that's where you find out that the Messiah was Jewish. He was Hebraic, I'm sorry. And how you can bring those two together and dance it out beautifully through the traditions and feel the Holy Spirit. Because, one of the things that happened to me is when I came out of the Christian walk and I became Jewish, for lack of better terms, right? We lost that feeling. It's like we ripped out the heart and we started acting maybe at one time. We started becoming liturgical, saying these prayers and everything. And then you're like, wait a minute, I don't like, just going through the motions. I want to go back and get my emotions, my feelers tickled again, right? And so in the end, it's the dance where you can bring it all together and realize that you can be liturgical and you can say these prayers and they can have meanings and feelings. And that's the 5 phases of the journey.
Very good. Very good. And I think this is a really good place to talk about that. If you guys are in a spot on the journey, is telling us, here's where I'm at on this journey right now, and I'm confused, that this is a safe place to be able to say that and to be able to, I'm really struggling with this. And we all get to say, oh, I was there too. And here's how I got through it. And as opposed to this being another thing that, oh, we're going to do teaching, we're going to be teaching. but I want to hit, we want to hit some things specifically for you. And I love that. Let's watch that show. We'll watch that together and we can kind of talk and chat through it. It'll be fun. We'll have a movie night.
Maybe if you don't mind, they could post their question. I would love to know if they have a question, if they could say it or post it.
Yeah. What was your question? Does anyone remember your question? I know mine was, why is Passover and Easter so far apart? Because they were like 3 weeks apart. That was the question that caused me to go figure out why were they so far apart, and that ruined my life. Or
mine was, who are the lost sheep?
Okay, you have to tell us how did that get you here? Now we got to know.
I had a friend who had posted some videos about Christmas, and I watched them and I was like, oh my word, this is crazy. And then I went and saw Eddie Chumney. This was before I understood like what was going on. Went and saw Eddie Chumney, and he was talking about the 2 houses of Israel. And I was like, wow, just like overwhelmed, like we talked about drinking water from a fire hydrant. And after that, I was like convinced. I mean, I was like, oh, well, this is the way, but then I couldn't defend it. I couldn't make it make sense. I thought, oh yeah, this is the path I need to be walking on. But then I was like, but why? Why do I think that? And so the same friend posted a video asking the question, well, who are the lost sheep? And she posted the video from 119. And I watched it and it filled in all the holes. And I was like, oh, wow. Oh, I get it now. I get it now. I have messed this up. Oh, wow. I have so much to learn.
Good. Who else? Who else has a good question? Danielle said mine was, who am I? And if Yeshua was Jewish, why do we not celebrate? Why do we not celebrate Easter? Oh, got it.
I meant Passover. I'm sorry.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Got it. Okay. So what was that? You want to share that journey with, like, what happened then? Like,
Oh, sure. So I grew up in a very, very small private school, and our phonics readers were all like little summaries of the Bible. And I remember being in 2nd grade and learning about Passover and, reading that we are to do this throughout our generations. And then the following year, we learned that Messiah was Jewish. And I was like, Mom, if Jesus was Jewish, and this was big when WWJD was a thing, and I'm like, if we're supposed to do what Jesus did, like, why are we celebrating Easter? Why are we not doing Passover? And she was like, oh, that's what the Jews do. And I'm like, well, again, we're supposed to do that. But I was really little, and that is kind of where my bitterness, to be blunt, with the church started. Because I had lots of questions and I never got them answered. But as an adult, was very rebellious and got myself into a very deep hole, and then just kind of asked the question, like, who am I? Who am I? And it was Passover season of 2017, and I turned on what's that movie? Prince of Egypt with my girls, and we were sitting there watching it, and the scene where like Moses is at the burning bush and he's like, God is speaking, and it's like very powerful and bold. And I just had tears streaming down my face because I'm like, this is who you are. This is who you are. These are your people. And that started my whole journey.
thank you for sharing that. That's good. I always like to hear everyone's, and you and I have talked about that before, your conversion, like your conversion, like when is we have to come up with a different word right?
Yeah.
I know. Well, thank you for sharing all that. Yeah. What a blessing that you had Gail as your resource to be able to reach out to her and walk that through, because she is so full of grace and kindness, hesed, right? Loving kindness is that word, hesed, loving kindness. I am going to start. I got books too on some more words. I'm going to jump back in and be doing better on the words of the week. I found that not many of you looked at them, so I stopped putting the energy into going through and doing them every week because nobody was looking at them. Maybe one person. So I will do it for that one person. So how about that? Whoever jumps in. Yours was the book of Malachi. Tish, we have to know now. the book of Malachi?
So, I had a mentor that was walking with alongside of me or leading me a little, starting in 2017. And we went through a couple programs, I guess you want to call them, or books of a journey. Pardon the chicken in the background. And we hit 2019 and we started to want to study a little more in the book of Revelation. And then she said to me, you know who we need? We need a Jewish person. She said, do you know any Jewish people? I said, no, I don't. She said, well, years ago, my son and I, we went out to this Messianic temple out on the east side. And she said, it was different, Tish. And I'm like, okay. I said, gosh. She goes, it's a really long day though. And I'm thinking, I don't want to do that, plus travel 40 miles one way. So we're studying, and she had a complete Jewish Bible and I had an NLT, and we're reading. And I said, Loretta, where are you getting that from? I said, my Bible doesn't say anything like that. And then there was, like, I'm going to say it for sure, a verse that's not even in my Bible. And she said, Tish, this is why we need to figure this out. I said, something is really missing here. So long story short, 2020 comes. We all know how that all went, right? And I started searching a little more, and then I found the portion. And so ended up talking to a gal, Amber, and she was actually, I had no idea what she was even talking about, but she was camping for Sukkot. And I'm thinking, wow, what's going on? I don't even know what this is. And she said, just join this community and then start asking questions. So from there out, Amber mentored myself and Loretta, and we walked through a little book called The Taste of Torah.
I love it.
And just trying to figure out, and we used Bill Bullock's introduction. And that was so overwhelming to me. Like, I literally had to go back and understand.
Fire hydrant.
Like,
yeah.
What am I supposed to be reading? Like, I couldn't even get like what book and chapters I was supposed to be reading to follow the Parsha. And then I was like, I didn't even know what a Parsha was, but I thought, I'm just going to go through this. She goes, Tish, just push through it for the first year. And you're going to feel defeated. Just keep going. And I did. And now we're in 2022. So I look at like the things I've learned, but yet the things I still have no clue. And there's some things I know pretty deep leveled, but then I come back and I'm still like up at the surface and I'm like, I don't even know what that means. I probably should know what that means. So a foundation class, great. I'm appreciative of this, but it all started on the book of Malachi. That was an eye opener to me, that everything was all about Jesus died on the cross. We're supposed to serve. We're supposed to love, which, yes, we are supposed to do those things. But why is it so, it was so shallow. And I've walked alongside, this whole thing from the time I was 10, fell off for a long time, in my teens, came back up again, repented. And then it was like something shifted in me. I don't know, probably 10, 15 years ago. And I meet him every single day. And then he just started showing a little bit more of himself to me. And then there was this thing that came, I want to share this too, because when I first found out about Torah and Parshas, and I have two friends who are, I don't know however you want to call them, like us, they started sharing things with me. And my one friend, Lori, would not. She would do the Jewish thing. She would ask me a question when I asked a question. She'd make me do the homework. And then my other friend, Lisa, she just kept saying, you know what, just for starters, go to this ministry, watch the videos. it'll kind of give you some insight. I bring the dog outside. It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and some kind of fear came over me. I'm standing in the yard, and all of a sudden it was like, run, run. They're lying to you. This is all like a cult. And I was like, what in the world? And then I got this anxiety that came up over me, and I was like, what am I messing around in? Because there was a time that I kind of messed around with new age stuff, and it didn't set right with me. You know, the Lord kind of was like, come on back, Tish. And then I'm sitting there, and I was like anxious for a couple of days. And then I'm like, that was the enemy, because God is not going to scare you like that. He's going to say, Tish, come on back. The enemy is going to say, get out of it now. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing? You know, does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the long version of it. All started with the book of Malachi. You
Very
know, and-
cool.
yeah.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. I want to make sure that we have, Misty, I want you to help me on this and just input on any of this. We're coming up on Shavuot, so I think it makes sense. I have a list of stuff that we can go over and that we can jump on little by little. I added some extra ones because as you would mention things, it would remind me of some other things. Talking about parshas and portion and what those words all mean and why do we even do this? Because you're going to hear people, oh, that's out of Babylon. We don't do that. You're going to hear that kind of stuff. And why are people so mad at Babylon? Like, you'll hear that a lot. People are telling us to come out of Babylon. And so everything is compared to what's happening in Babylon. Not everything that came out of Babylon was bad. And so we're going to talk about a lot of that. But today we're going to close this out. Thank you all for being here to give me some ideas. If you have something else, please get a hold of me on Band or whatever and send me a message and be like, oh, I thought of something. I want to go over this, but I kind of want to go over, and Crystal, get your input on this, and Misty, get your input on this. But talking about Shavuot, I want to talk about, what do I do? It's coming up. We're finishing counting the Omer. It's kind of late for us to get into a big discussion on counting the Omer now. We're almost over with it. Highly recommend just get the app right now and go through and read the little things. The whole point of it is just that every day you acknowledge we're one day closer. We're one day closer, and that you're waiting. When I woke up this morning, it was pounding in my head. I won't say God was yelling, talking to me, but it felt, I know when he talks to me, it was like that. And like I said today, he was saying, what are you waiting for? Not like the way he was saying, like, well, so what are you waiting for? Like, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for, to lose weight? I'm not going to do that till I lose weight. Or what is the thing in your life you're waiting for? I'm waiting for the next movie to come out that I couldn't wait till the new Downton Abbey comes out. I've been waiting for that. What are the things that you prepare for that you're waiting for? Your next series that you wanted to see. And I realized that was kind of along the lines of what he was showing me. It's like, what are you waiting for? What is it that you and your friends how can we next year, let's commit together. Let's do this better next year, where it is something that's exciting, that every day we're finding a way to make it something that's an anticipation, that we're building and building and building, because they were waiting together in echad, in one accord. They were all together, waiting together, because he had said, wait for the promise. And they would have known, they would have been going through this process of waiting for Shavuot. And then on the day of Shavuot, what would have happened? And what should we do in our homes? Should you choose to participate in this mission? What happens on this day? You get to have a feast. You have this is not when you have to fast for. And you'll hear people talking about milk. Why are they having all these milk products? They're having cheesecake. Can I tell you, cheesecake is my favorite thing ever. Yes, please. All of it. I won't be intermittent fasting on Shavuot. This will be, or maybe I will. I could just eat and then stop at 7, but it will be a celebration. And there is prayers in Jewish families when they'll sit at the dinner table. And I am reading directly out of, you guys, if you get this book, I think everyone should have this. If it's something that it's as a discipleship thing, as a woman in your home, if you're by yourself or of a family or whatever, because Valerie does we have this in our cafe store. If you go to therooted.cafe.com, write in it, put stickers on it. So you find all your stuff, you highlight stuff, you go through, use it. There's And she actually gives us a percentage. The Ruta Cafe, she gives us like 30% of whatever if you buy it from our store. We have our own special link. She's super generous. But you know, I love it. It says if you prepare for an all-night Bible study with Bibles, art supplies, drawing pencils, watercolors, it can be an all-night adventure starting at sundown on Saturday to sundown on Sunday will be this year. You'll see Yeshua says that he stayed up all night. This would have been during Shavuot, that he would have stayed up all night. It was an all-night event, should you choose to participate. She actually even has a thing of what you do each hour. Like at 8 p.m., you read the book of Ruth and you discuss the plot. At 9 p.m., you read Exodus 19 and 20 and discuss what Mount Sinai was like for the Israelites. Read the traditional prophetic scriptures and discuss God's glory. And she gives you a few scriptures. 10 p.m., do some exercises to stimulate the circulation system, and then take a snack break. 11 p.m., there's a list of all kinds of scriptures to read together. Midnight, open your Bibles and read Genesis 15:5, and then put on jackets if you need to and go outside and look at the stars. Talk about Abraham and his descent. I mean, this goes through all the way until the next day, 8 a.m. She says, go to sleep. When you wake up, plant a tree. So it's really kind of fun. And she tells you why to do all those things with all the things, but having cheese platters, putting hummus with some vegetable platters, bowl of fresh fruit with cheese popcorn, cottage cheese, yogurt, ice cream, sour cream. You're thinking of this land flowing with milk and honey that they're talking about going into. People do challah bread. They'll do making sure the 2 challah breads, because there's the 2 tablets, they'll represent that. She goes through and explains all of that. I'm curious, Crystal, before Misty jumps in, Crystal, how do you do Shavuot every year?
Well, that's been challenging because it wasn't until this year that I was allowed to openly celebrate. It's been 14 years that I've been waiting for this. But this particular year, it's about fellowship, and it's about meeting with my congregation at Bet Ami, because I'm not outside the tent anymore. I have fellowship. And so it's really amazing that I don't have to do it on my own. But I used to read the book of Ruth and then eat a lot of cheese, put out cheesecake for my family. They didn't know why I was putting out all this cheese products. It was pretty fun because I did it subliminally.
Yeah. Here you go. Mom, why are we having these you take cottage cheese and put it in a blender with frozen raspberries and some like sweetener. Ooh, it's so yummy. Oh. It's like a mousse. So good. Mm-hmm. Fun. Good. I'm excited for you. I can't wait for us to all hear. Like, I mean, again, you're doing this. She would light Shabbat candles in her closet that her husband wouldn't know that she was writing. Yeah. And
I'm so I have been so utterly blessed. You know, if you're faithful with the little things, God will bless you with more. And I have tried to be faithful to, you know, recognize those feast days as they come along and still honor my covenant with my husband. And I do know, I think you have a marriage class that's going to be coming up, which is going to be so awesome, because sometimes we don't have unity with our husbands when we keep these holidays. And so just being able to this whole year has just been pretty amazing.
I'm excited for you. It's really fun. And yes, you're going to hear all of us. I know that every one of our leadership will tell you the same answer to this question is if your husband's not walking in Torah, you honor him because that's your covenant, and God is a covenant God, and he is going to want you to honor that covenant. So keep that covenant with your husband and he will bless you. Even if it means you have to decorate a Christmas tree, you will. And you're going to hear different in other places. I've seen it. They're all fighting people and they're going to be mad and they'll think you're crazy. I'm just telling you, you may not want to have to hang the balls on the thing, but you may be sitting there just, you know, let's read the story of the manger. Then do what you can do and put out mangers or do it, you know, do your thing. Like you're going to just honor that covenant because he is a covenant God, and your husband because of your joy and because of your love. And then what'll happen is then you bring in Passover and he's like, okay, let's do Passover. And then all of a sudden Christmas will just kind of go out the window. I mean, you'll just watch the things will slowly go away because those other things have come in. I promise you. And I will, this is a hill I will die on. You don't leave your husband because he's not walking Torah. Now, if he's beating you and you're in danger, leave your husband, but you do not leave a covenant relationship because you think that you have a new covenant and you have to leave your husband. He will not honor that. So you're unmuted, Crystal. Go.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there were times when I decorated that Christmas tree and then I went in and I took a shower and I cleaned myself and I ran a full tub and I did a bunch of mikvahs in the
Oh my
tub.
gosh.
And I was like, God, you don't want me to do this. I know I'm just, but he is faithful to recognize that when you hang those balls on that Christmas tree and when you that he will, and you go, and I went and gave myself a shower, and we're supposed to do a mikvah in living water, right? Check this out. So I left the water running and the drain open after I got the tub.
Well, you got that hole in your bathtub. So if you fill it high enough, it'll empty as new water's coming in. So it doesn't flood anyway.
This is as close as I can get to living water. Please.
I got to add mikvah. We got to add mikvah to the list, you guys. We got to add mikvah. We got to do that too. We'll add it on here. We'll talk about that. That's awesome. That's awesome. So Misty, how do you celebrate Shavuot?
Well, this will be a new year for me because previously in a congregation, we would go out to Paladar Canyon and do a mikvah and have fellowship and just study and blow the shofar and just enjoy that time together as a congregation. So I don't know what I'm going to do this year.
This year you might be having a cheese platter with the puppies.
Yeah, they'll love that.
It's about just honoring that it's a day and you get to eat. You don't have to fast because we're going to be coming up on that, and we'll do a really good job of getting you ready for the fall feasts if you stay in here with us. I think what we'll do is this next one, like next week, instead of it being like a deeper disciple, I think we'll just do it all the same. It'll just be discipleship, period. And each week we'll just have a topic and we'll jump into those topics, and we have enough on here to keep us busy for a little while. Anyone else
Charlie
doing it? Yes.
Since you speak of fall feast, this is going to make your heart sing. I am hoping to spend fall feast with Kathy Merrick. Sukkot with Kathy Merrick.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun. Are you doing Lion and the Lamb? Are you doing, is she doing that? Or no, she's up there in Waka Waka or Wobble Wobble.
She's in Moses Lake currently,
okay.
Which is like 4 hours away.
Yeah,
so
but they do they do Sukkot at like Wamoba.
Wewoka. I'm at Wewoka.
Yeah. So I already made the request for the time off for the week of Sukkot. And I'm hoping to celebrate it with Kathy Merrick and her family.
That's fun. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Fun. Leanne, what do you do for Shavuot?
Well, we have a unique opportunity this year because I attend a fellowship here in Birmingham, and somehow our rabbi got connected with a local Church of God, and they wanted to know about the feast. This happened right after Pesach. And so he has taught the last 5 Wednesdays on the feast leading up to Shavuot, which of course is Saturday. So we're actually going to celebrate it with them as a blended congregation. So this is going to be our first opportunity to really understand the feast. And it's all God, because you cannot connect 2 congregations like that. So it's just very interesting. So
that is fantastic. Well, I want to encourage all of you to do something
fresh.
Yeah, do something. Do something, even if it's just a cheesecake, and you get go and buy your one little slice of cheesecake at the grocery store and put it on a pretty plate, and you eat that, and you watch a little movie about Ruth. During this season, you'll hear people talk about they read the story of Ruth. That's a thing. For those of you who have the Aleph Beta, he does a really good teaching on that. He's talking about the similarities between Ruth and Abraham and how Ruth is fulfilling a lot of the prophetic stuff in Abraham. But I just want to encourage you that even if you don't know what you're doing, it's okay. Just do, even if it's just a piece of cheesecake and you're saying just start. Don't wait. What are you waiting for? Don't wait. Don't wait to wait. You need to wait. Does that make sense? Just wait. It's almost here. It's almost here, guys. It's almost here. And isn't it exciting that on the same day that Shavuot was when the 10 commandments were given, right? When the Torah was given, when the 10 words were spoken, he comes down. That day, 3,000 were destroyed. 3,000 died because of the whole golden calf debacle. But then in Acts, we read that there was 3,000 added to them. He's such a good God. He gave them back 3,000 for the 3,000 that were taken away, that on that same day. Isn't that beautiful? And what is he going to do in your home, in your heart, in your life on Shavuot this weekend? What is he going to do? What's going to happen? Are you going to get excited? Or you can't wait? That's what we should say. I can't wait, but I have to wait, but I can't wait. That's what I want you to all be feeling, and start feeling that building of that anticipation of healing, of change, of miracles that can happen coming up on Shavuot. Do something fun with your kids, you know, get some like balls, cheese balls, make funny cheese balls that look like things. I don't know. I'm sure you could find fun crafts. Ask Danielle. She does fun things. We have some girls in the portion even that have some fun things they do, but do something, even if it's by yourself, do something, guys. Love all of you guys. And if you come up with something else, let me know. And this is a good launching point, right? It's a good place for us to get started. And next week, I'm going to pick one of these and we'll start going. But if you have questions, again, just email me, or in Band, just send me a private message in Band, or post it in Band, like, hey, I thought of some stuff. And put hashtag discipleship, so that way I can search. In case I can't find it, I can always search for any comment that says hashtag discipleship, and I'll know. Okay, guys, have a great night. Shalom.